The interim budget 2024-25, slated for announcement on February 1, will likely see the central government focus on issues close to rural India's heart. The government may unveil targeted measures that would make up a special package aimed at the agricultural and non-agricultural rural sectors.
There is no gainsaying that the budget will focus on rural India. After all, that's where the real India still is. And the concerns of rural India will also help address the concerns of urban India. If you have rural India that is growing at a sustainably high level, then it also helps urban India in ensuring the growth. An easy example is the FMCG sector. The FMCG sector does well when rural India's incomes rise. So I think the government is acutely conscious of this, and therefore the interim budget will make sure that rural India's concerns are met so that the urban India's goals are also achieved.
With 34% of its market in rural areas, India's FMCG sector is a good indicator of rural economic health. At the Confederation of Indian Industries FMCG Summit in December, managements of various fast-moving consumer goods companies had said that urban demand continued to grow, while rural demand remained under pressure because incomes were under stress in rural areas. Additionally, the agriculture sector is projected to see a 1.8% growth in FY24, marking a 7-year low. The reasons are poor Kharif harvest and weak initial sowing of Rabi crops. These findings are from the first advance estimates of national income released by the NSO in January. The government is likely to be conscious of these factors ahead of the general elections. For example, the government could reportedly increase the allocation per farmer under the Pradhan Mantri Kissan Samman Nidhi Yojana or PM Kissan scheme. The allocation could increase from 6,000 rupees annually to 8,000 rupees. Against this backdrop, Business Standard's Sanjeev Mukherjee highlights the measures that the government could reportedly take for the benefit of rural India.
There is a lot of talk that rural India government might look at for the special package, both from the point of view of agriculture as well as for the overall rural economy, which is in the non-agriculture sectors as well. So there are reports which are saying that in case of agriculture, the installments or the disbursals and the PM Kisan might be increased from the current 6,000 to maybe 8,000 or maybe 7,500 per year. But it can also be, there are some reports which are saying that not the entire PM Kisan will be increased, but only the 2.5 crore women farmers who are under PM Kisan, they will get an extra installment of 2,000 rupees per month. Now, there are also people are saying that in case of MGNREGA, instead of the 65,000 crores that the government annually allocates, they might increase it to almost 90,000 crore upfront. They usually do it 90,000 crore over the period of time, but they might do it upfront today, this time around, because it might push in more money into the rural economy.
However, such measures have their attendant challenges. Let's start with the possibility of the government increasing the allocation per farmer under the PM Kisan scheme.
Increasing the PM Kisan suddenly for another 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees from the current 6,000 rupees does not seem to me a very feasible idea overall when the government is looking at cutting down on their fiscal expenditure. Because if you increase it by 3,000 rupees, it becomes a permanent expenditure, which has become, PM Kisan has become. So it's a permanent drag on your budget for 65,000 crores rupees every year, without not much coming out of it in terms of it is electorally or politically much more prudent, but it doesn't come out in terms of any economic sense. But I don't know whether it is an election year where much of the economic sense takes a back seat. So there can be an increase in PM Kisan, but that can only be maybe limited to only the women farmers. Because overall, the government is trying to cater to the women constituency much more aggressively than it has done in the past. And that the election results recently in the states have shown that it is a woman who have come out very aggressively and very enthusiastically and voted back the BJP governments or voted the BJP governments in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh as well as in Madhya Pradesh. So this is the constituency which they have cultivated over a period of time.
Now, let's address the option involving the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or MGNREGA.
The government does not want MGNREGA to expand because the kind of things that they have introduced in the last few years does show that they want MGNREGA to be as a very limited, very specific, and very focused scheme. They've introduced Aadhaar-based payment system. They've made national mandatory mobile-based application attendance mandatory for MGNREGA. They're also now, somebody was telling me, was looking at a kind of a face recognition for MGNREGA workers every day. So these are the steps where you weed out all the ineligible, all the people who are not exactly the beneficiaries of the scheme, but do get into the system somehow. So from that point of view, I don't think whether they will increase the budgetary allocation upfront.
Clearly, Sanjeev Mukherjee is doubtful about the government increasing MGNREGA allocation. Given the challenges involved, the government will have to carefully select the measures it could announce for the rural sector in the interim budget.
So what has happened is that real rural wage growth hasn't been very, very great in the last 3-4 years. If the data shows, it is almost last 5 years, it has been not very huge growth in real rural wages. So what the government can look at is that pushing in or pumping in money where these wages are, where this labor gets absorbed more efficiently, like which they have been doing for last several years, like pumping more money into the drinking water scheme, pumping more money into the rural housing scheme. The rural housing scheme last year, they pumped in substantial amount of money. They might again look to top it up so that more manual casual labor gets absorbed into these kind of works. Something on those lines can be attempted where the infrastructure gets created in the rural areas, as well as the casual manual labor, the labor who works in fields for very petty amounts, get absorbed in these kind of works. So my understanding is they might continue with these things because this is their focus area as well.
Even if the government does ultimately bring in a special package for rural India in the upcoming interim budget, A.K. Bhattacharya stresses that it will still ensure that electoral compulsions do not compromise its fiscal consolidation plan.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.